Cool. Let's go ahead and jump right in. We've got a good number of people here, and I want to make sure that we respect Jeff's time. So we'll start off with welcoming Jeff Jordan. So many of you know about Jeff, know Jeff, potentially have even spoken with Jeff, but he's one of the partners that led our round with A16Z. He's a legend in the space and in many spaces, I think I can comfortably say. And we're extremely excited to be partnering with not only the entire A16 team, but specifically Jeff and VJ, of course. So, Jeff, thank you for joining us. We'd love to just hear a few words from you.
A pleasure. No, thanks for having me. And it's funny, we have dueling company meetings. The Andreessen Horowitz company meeting is going on now. So I told Ben I would come and do it fast. We're thrilled to be associated with Levels. For me, the involvement is kind of personal. Two things came together. One is my daughter, about 12, 13 years ago, was diagnosed as a type 1 diabetic. And that's the bad kind. That's the autoimmune one where your pancreas stops producing insulin. And so she's led over half of her life now using CGMs to basically to keep her alive. And so we've gotten very, very deep in metabolic health, the impact of carbohydrates on her blood sugar. We counted carbs every meal. I'm a former chef, so I do most of the cooking in our house, and so literally you're counting carbs on the recipes and then trying to figure out the size of the portion, all these crazy things. So got a deep understanding of metabolic health. And then personally, I am very active. We were just talking about skiing, but I remember a friend invited me to, I love mountain biking. A friend invited me a couple of years back to join him in Colorado, where he was training for the Leadville 100. I went from sea level and joined him, which was stupid. And then the first day he wants to ride from Aspen to Crested Butte, which is like an 8, 9 hour ride. And I'm like, I can't ride for 8 or 9 hours. I bunk. I mean, I had 2 hours and I'm done. He goes, well, do you eat while you're working out? And I'm like, no. And so I was able to, with the benefit of putting food in my tank over the course of this ride, to make the ride all the way to Crescent View. I died, but I made it, and it created the awareness of me, not only what my daughter was going through to keep herself healthy and alive, but metabolic health is huge just for performance. And so when I heard about Levels, which is for me, looking to bring metabolic health to everybody and give people proactive information on their health versus waiting for bad symptoms to emerge and seeking treatment. For me, it's potentially life changing. I mean, I use the Whoop, and it helps inform my lifestyle, my activity, my sleep, and I view Levels as having the potential to do in metabolic health what Whoop is doing for performance and sleep and things like that. So super excited about the traction and the vision and the mission. What the other thing that attracted me to Levels was just uh, you guys were completely badass in how you were thinking through things, how you had your roadmaps, the pace of execution towards the vision. I remember Sam, after my first conversation with him, just said, just casually send some documents that, hey, if you want to learn more, go into this. I never read anything like it. I mean, the organized thinking, the roadmaps, the here we go, there we go. What I didn't know, as I got very into it and was reading it, Sam was tracking how much of the content I consumed in the background, which I wasn't aware of, but it's a pretty smart thing to do. But so apparently I passed because I consumed virtually all of it. And what I've developed an appreciation of for Levels is a high, great vision, great progress, and rate of execution towards that vision. And for me, it's just been I'm super intrigued on where you can take the business. I have a unfair advantage because my wife is very, as Sam can tell you, very, very deep in the diabetes community because of our working with our daughter. She has like 4 or 5 different roles at JDRF. So I also bring a content expert to the discussions when we get into some of the arcane on different CGMs and different approaches and all these. Every company Sam's tracking, Karen is also tracking. So it's been fun. So I'm thrilled to be along for the ride. I can't wait to see where you guys take it. And why I do what I do is to be able to support the efforts of a high performance team like you guys trying to really change the world and make it a better place. So thank you for allowing me to come along in the journey.
Well, awesome story, awesome background to a great partnership. So, Jeff, thank you. Looking forward to, we're just at the beginning. I think we can all agree. But yeah, the A16 partnership has been a very important step for our company, and we're excited to keep it going. So thanks for all the help.
Yeah,
We're always just one email away from a very important network connection through these folks over there. So
no, and it's really fun to partner with VJ on it. One, he's a good friend, and the other is he is so deep in biology, and I'm pretty deep in consumer. So it's a kind of a impressive tandem to bring. So neither of us can help on the other side, but at least if we're around, it's good. Anyway, thanks guys, appreciate the opportunity.
love it. All right, good luck on the other all hands. Thanks for
Yeah,
joining.
I have to go talk about all the investments we made now. Yeah.
Enjoy. All right, thanks a lot, Jeff. Cool. Jumping ahead into recent achievements. Big week. I will go ahead and just jump right in. So something that blew me away was finding out, which I guess I kind of knew this, but not really, that the whole new level content schedule is booked out 12 weeks. So we're already like mid-August for the content calendar for that podcast. So I think that's a huge achievement. And I just want to, shout out Ben for pushing that forward, but then everyone else who's been involved in the recordings and who are listening, providing feedback on this process. I've gotten several organic just notes from people through LinkedIn and elsewhere just saying like, the podcast is amazing. And so that's awesome. And I love that we're locked and loaded for that long out. Yesterday, we signed a $20 million non-dilutive venture debt deal with TriplePoint. So this is essentially non-dilutive capital that we can use to continue to accelerate our business objectives. And this is quite a bit more affordable than selling equity. So big deal. We got great terms. A lot of that has to do with what we've been able to demonstrate thus far and the partnerships like A16 that we've been able to show. So that's a huge deal. Congrats, team. Roadmap and product development process. So David has put in a colossal amount of work on building out a tool set and a map for where we are, where we came from, where we're going. And of course, this is going to be a collaborative process. It's going to be an iterative process, but I will leave it to him to release all that info. There's a little bit of a kind of a bird's eye view. This is one of the artifacts that he's built out to just show in simple language and in simple blocks how things are progressing and looking to the future. And then he has obviously much more to distribute. So thanks, David, for running point on this. I think it's going to be helpful across all of business and for candidates. We cleared our standby backlog. So as you know, we've had for the past few months, we've had people who had purchased and then they were in kind of this queue waiting for their purchase to turn into a delivery. And so we have now cleared that backlog. If you recall, we had gotten a bit ahead of ourselves a few weeks back and we had kind of pulled back on partnerships and podcast activations, things like that. So we're going to start ramping back into those. This week was a big podcast week. We're also going to start initiating waitlist conversion testing. So, starting to provide opportunity and tracking conversion rates among the waitlist as we start to build up our orders going forward. And let's see, press strategy, blog redesign concept, Salesforce debrief memo. So a lot of writing, a lot of strategy work this week. Shout outs to Tom, Haney, Braden, everyone involved in this. Really helpful lessons learned. I think these strategy docs are continuing to get better and more actionable, which I love to see. And then of course we're going to be learning from them and building, future pilots off of what we've learned, especially with the Salesforce example. Yesterday, submitted a 40-page IRB protocol document to the industry IRB at Vera that we're planning to work with. So this will be kind of the next step. Just they're going to potentially help us with protocol development services. So it's just a quote process, but things are still moving ahead there. We'll keep everyone updated. And then, like I said, big week for podcasts. We had a nice spread. I mean, I think Tom has more on this, but in GQ, we had this really awesome spread and one of the coolest body issue kind of layouts I've seen where levels is the sort of high-tech alternative to the old school finger prick. And I think it was really nicely laid out. And shout out Joe Holder for hooking us up with the mention there. And then Casey recorded with Dr. Mark Hyman on Doctor's Pharmacy, I believe also recorded with Broken Brain this week. We had a couple other podcasts released, and then we've been in contact with a number of others like Rich Roll, who we hope to get into the program very soon, and then we'll see where that goes. But and then also Dr. Perlmutter. So Casey recorded with Dr. Perlmutter, and that was released. So big week for the exposure. And then I want to highlight these sort of artifacts over here from the design world that Alan has put together. I'll let him speak to it, but a lot of beautiful visuals coming together on the lower bar, and then a potential profile that we can start to replace the hamburger menu. And all this kind of comes from the new information architecture that he and David have been mapping out. So a lot of exciting stuff coming towards the app. Quick shout out for a 3-minute turnaround time on our member support team here. I think this was in the acquired Slack channel, but really amazing to see things like 3-minute turnaround times for sensor issues. So thank you, member support team. I'm going to read some quotes real quick. The one in the middle is where I'm going to focus. This person lost 20 pounds during the Salesforce pilot and basically controlled their variables to only change their eating habits, only adding a little bit of exercise post-meal because they had learned that could increase insulin sensitivity. That's a pretty shocking improvement. And of course, this person was a big proponent of Salesforce maintaining the levels program as a wellness option. And then I do want to also highlight down here, this person said, I feel like I'm missing a piece in this program. It's community. Just going to highlight, she's part of this postmenopausal group who are struggling with metabolic health, and she wants to have a group, a tribe that she can follow with. And I think it's worth highlighting because this is something that we have been talking about so much in the background and thinking about ways to incorporate it. And so this roadmap includes a lot of sort of topical information about where we're thinking about going with the social platform, and something that can be, sort of a platform for tribes to come together while maintaining the overall levels experience. So it's just cool to see the pieces falling in place and getting the feedback that lays directly onto the roadmap we're building. I think that's pretty much it. Great work, team. Okay, quick culture and kudos. So we're gonna keep iterating on the levels one-liner. This is one that was inspired by Rob. Rob, thank you for joining us again 2 weeks in a row. Great to have you. But Rob had a quick line in his book that says something along the lines of, people should know how their food affects their health. And that resonated. And levels shows you how your lifestyle affects your health. It includes food, but also exercise, sleep, stress. And so this is one version of a levels one-liner that I think is very succinct and nice. And so I'd love feedback on this inside the company, outside the company, whether or not you feel like this answers the question of what is levels to you. And then I really want to highlight Shinlu this week. So she's been dropping these tool improvements. I know Ms. has some updates on this as well, but it was really cool to just see this cascade of unexpected but seemingly major improvements to the way that our retool tooling talks to other tools and allows our member support team to get their jobs done. And it's small things like this that can be, as Ms. framed here, literally life-changing for a team who is doing this day after day, minute after minute, week after week. And so thank you, Shinlu, for just seeking out these opportunities to improve the other team's ability to maintain our awesome CSAT. Okay, David.
Can I get a quick refresh, Josh? Awesome, thank you. So briefly, in this week's launch, the major aspects of the new chart experience are ready, and you can test those out internally, but we'll be pushing those out hopefully to customers, to members tomorrow. This includes the zone review page and the sleep report. So you can try those out for the new experience with the engaging charts that Alan and Justin developed. I'm really excited about that. Next slide. And then also in this release, we'll have restyled zone show badges and descriptions, and a couple of the nice ones to point out in the lower right-hand corner, giving a sense as to how long you'll have to wait for your score. So some subtle tweaks there that are going to be helpful to our members. Next slide. And John was on vacation this week, but Alan was iterating a bit more on the designs for the improved add a log flow. So just highlighting some of the changes here, kind of going back a little bit more towards a functional interface that lets you get in, get out as quickly as possible, but also is elegantly adding in more ways to augment the data and space for future additions where we can have structured data. Next slide. And lots of progress on information architecture, which I'll let Alan talk through.
Cool. Yeah. So we're making some steady progress towards, figuring out where things go and potentially moving and consolidating some areas of the app. And so basically what we're going to do is we're going to say goodbye to the hamburger menu, which we know and love. Thank you, King, for supporting our sections, especially challenges. I'll get to that in a moment. I think to begin with, to allow us to do that, though, we've got to start, potentially adjusting where, our bottom nav bar. And we want to make some adjustments here to support future growth, potentially community, as Josh was mentioning at the beginning. So we're going to be, we've got some evolutions of the design on the right here, nice and prominent frequent action button in the middle. We're going to do some variations of that top and bottom one there once we get the implementation. Next slide. Oh, actually, if you can go back one more, what I should have mentioned here was that there's a new section on the right here called Me. And this is going to be holding a lot of that material that was in the hamburger menu. And we think that there's a potential in this section to have things like tracking long-term health, weight, maybe test results, for example. But for now, it's going to be just pretty much transferring over what's in the hamburger menu, but there's lots of growth opportunities there in the future. Next slide, please. Okay, so we've reskinned the Learn section. And so this will be accommodating not just articles and lessons, but challenges as well. Oh, I think we lost the screen. There you go. So articles, challenges, and lessons. A lot of people know and love challenges, but we think that they deserve a little bit more play. So we're going to put them in the Learn section there in the middle. We've also got some new styles here for these templates just to consolidate the styling and representation in the app. Next slide. So challenges. Challenges are super cool part of the experience. And I think a lot of members have been missing them by being in the hamburger menu. So we're basically taking that functionality, we're dropping it in here. We've added some new styling. And I think I'm really excited to see if users start to engage with some of this content. Next slide. Lessons. We know lessons, basically just a basic reskin. But I think what you're going to start to see is that as we do more of this sort of reskinning, things are going to start to pull together and feel just a little bit more cohesive design-wise. Next slide. And the Me section. So again, as I was mentioning at the beginning, lots of great material potentially for this section. For now, it's just going to be what's in the hamburger menu, but on the right, we have these aspirations to potentially have some sort of like goal statement or statement for why you're here, something to really double down on identity. And so when we get into community, we're probably going to want to do a lot more in this area. So there's my favorite cyclist, Greg LeMond. He's got a little mission or goal statement, sort of like, his belief statement. And then can we do something with membership? Like, can we give you a member number? Like the earlier the better. Or can we at least like say, you've been here since, whatever date. Lots of great, interesting opportunities there. And that's it for design.
A lot to love there. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, David. And thanks, team.
Oh, there's still more.
More from David.
Yeah, several more slides. So with this one, I just wanted to highlight an effort that Gabriel's been working on. So we've been working through trying to reduce long zones. So as you know, right now we currently help members determine whether their choices are good or bad using our zones and our zone score. But that zone score is a course label for a 2-hour period. And what happens is if you log other food items towards the end of that, it can chain together and form a long zone. So we're trying to reduce long zones so we can help our members understand better by getting separate zones that score more accurately distinct units of metabolic time. So with this long zone reduction, what you're seeing here is Gabriel was looking at the effect of exercise and whether we can reduce the end time for zones with exercise based on when you return to your glucose baseline. And on the left, you're looking at strenuous exercise. You can see it can take longer for people to return to their baseline after a strenuous exercise and a shorter period to return to baseline after non-strenuous exercise. So what we're going to do is we're going to end zones earlier when you have non-strenuous exercise, maybe about after 15 minutes. And that's going to free up an additional zone. So instead of getting one zone, you'll get two, which will be more accurately reflect the scores for distinct periods of metabolic time. And we'll probably trim the zone buffer to 60 minutes or 40 minutes for the strenuous exercise. So very cool to see this, and love taking the data-driven approach. Thank you, Gabriel. Next slide. So this is the meal insights is something that we've been thinking through for quite a while, and Alan and I have been thinking through this a bit. I just wanted to preview some of the thinking. Again, on the vein of helping people more holistically understand how the food is affecting them. We want to try to pull in some information around what did you actually eat, and can we pair that with things that we know about typical responses for that food, and then also augment it. So this would be typical glucose responses, maybe with glycemic index information, or even theoretically pulling in extra data that we know. Like for example, like with the Coke experiment, we know that it has fructose as well as glucose. We might be able to annotate that, even though we can't measure the fructose right now. We could pull it in and give you more information to help you unpack whether something is good for you or not for you. So this is ongoing, but really excited to get something out there in the near term for this. Next slide. I'm also making progress thinking through the Dr. Casey's data project that I previewed yesterday. More to come on that next week, but just wanted to remind people on that. Next slide. And the last thing I think I wanted to call out, Jinlu has also started an effort on user data deletion project. And you might think when we get a request to delete user data, it's very straightforward, but because we have many different systems on the back end, it's actually a fairly complicated project and requires a lot of ongoing thinking. So I'm very excited that she's taking this on to comprehensively think about how we do this properly, especially as we start to grow as a company and get more technical complexity. It'll be great to have a foundation from right now where this will just work elegantly going forward. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Awesome.
And sorry, I think there was a question. Justin, you were asking, does the meal insights play against personalized diet mindset? It's a good question. There could be a risk. It depends on how we frame it, but we wanted to help people understand, like, typically where they should be looking at next. So the problem is many times members tell us they don't know why they had the response they did, and we want to point to them and say, we can't say for sure, but typically, like, this component in your meal might be something to experiment with. Like, look more into that one, and so that's the intent of it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have never had a GPS for their body yet, and so even though it directionally people can have some misalignment between how the degrees to which they respond, we can at least help them understand, for those that really don't even understand macronutrients, where to start looking. So I think it's a quick getting started guide. Awesome. Huge week. Thank you to everyone who contributed. All right, hiring update. Still processing quite a few candidates through Workable. Still trying to hit our stride with how we process those. I think we're going to start to settle in on some SLAs on the sort of hiring process as we kind of free up more resources. Let's just put it that way. So Ms. has been doing a colossal effort here, and then Andrew and Sam and I have been working on several of these sort of discrete positions, but we're going to try and build a cohesive process as we go forward. Still have multiple roles open, still continuing to process candidates. So if you know anyone who fits one of these criteria, please refer them. Ms.
Great. Wanted to highlight a few of the ops tools updates that Josh previewed earlier. So a lot of these might seem basic at the surface, but what happens with ops tools generally is that we get used to working in a certain way, and some things might have some weird workaround processes that we just kind of learn. And ops generally learns to suffer in silence, so to speak. And we live with a lot of pain on some workflows. And so each one of these improvements pretty significantly improves our workflow, lets us handle more context more quickly, more accurately, all of which add up for a better end user experience for our members. And so highlighting a few of these, a few from Jinlu, from Hao, from Jeremy, thanks for all the work here. So refund reasons. We have a very generous refund policy, as most folks know. If someone's going through the experience and isn't finding it valuable or expected something else, we're very quick to refund and make sure, or make the experience right. Previously, we weren't collecting refund reasons. A handful of folks cancel as buyer's remorse before they even get their shipment. Some cancel after the fact, once they've had a few weeks in or had some sensor application issues. We weren't really capturing that data, and now we are. We were capturing it on subscriptions, but not on the 28-day program. So collecting that directly in Retool is going to be really meaningful and adds up to a lot of really interesting insights that we can build towards in the future once we know what's actually going on. So that's a big one that is worth highlighting. We added an events table, which will help us basically understand what's gone on in a member's account and not just rely on piecing together Help Scout emails and notes that may or may not be in Retool. So it's very, very valuable just to have a source of truth and a record there. Quick link to Help Scout that searches the member's email address. Sounds basic, helps with workflow quite a bit. This top right one is the replacement order flow. So previously, we rewind 6 months, we were placing all orders manually. Then we were placing subscription orders manually. And until this week, we were placing replacement orders manually. So using all the rails that Jeremy and team have built around subscriptions and order placement, we can now create replacement orders directly from Retool, which is beautiful and saves a ton of time on the order of many minutes per replacement. And we do quite a bit of those. And then finally, the last two to highlight, prescriptions table. I think Hao and Jeremy have been working on this quite a bit, tracking the latest status of a member's prescription. Now that there's multiple products entering the mix, it really becomes important to track refills, which is the most accurate prescription, how many refills are left, when it expires. So we now have a source of truth for that. And finally, we blanked out states that are unsupported due to telemedicine regulation. And so previously those orders were getting through and then we were canceling them, which is a pretty poor member experience. So at this point, someone can't sign up if they're not supported. And that's really just a long tail. It's about four to five states or regions or geographies that are unsupported. So a lot of really small changes, but really, really meaningful in aggregate. So thanks engineering for supporting us. And we're excited to use all these new tools.
Amazing. Thank you, Ms. Thanks, team. Ben.
Growth. So weekly, $102,000 of recognized revenue. Monthly, we're already at 83 on our way to our goal of 300 and 92 in the bank. So sitting well there. Next slide, please. So monthly, it's always good to do a recap and look how we're trending month over month. And so May was a very strong month as far as recognized revenue goes. It's in the history of Levels, the strongest month to date. And part of it is due to the pipeline, right? And so we had so many orders that had been sitting, waiting for fulfillment, and we don't actually recognize the revenue until the orders are fulfilled or shipped. And so we'll start to see, even though we're not in growth mode and we're maintaining a target of $300,000, we'll start to see that some of the partnership initiatives and things that filled the pipeline for May will start to regress a little bit because we've tried to maintain this controlled growth. So 13% month over month growth, very exciting to see. If we look at the next slide, yearly recap. Oh, next slide, sorry, this one's perfect. So partner codes, it's always good to look at the contribution as far as partner codes or promo codes go to our cash generated. And so we had $423,000 of cash that we generated in May, and 33% of that was made up of basically 5 promo codes if you remove referrals as being an actual promo code. Hat tip to JM Twitter for 6% of the cash generated. But it really is important that we realize how much our partners contribute to the growth, and that we know it is a lever that we can start to play with as we get deeper into other affiliates and other segments that we target. Next slide, please. So yearly, those little white blips on the graph is that's May 2020. And so if you look, $16,000 of recognized revenue in May 2020 and $649,000 in 21 is a very significant increase. 3,800% growth is nothing to shake our heads at, but it's also, we have to recognize that as we move forward and numbers get larger, it gets hard to realize some of the compounding and growth that we see, to see that big of an increase in percentage growth. Subscription revenue was $4,300 last year, and we're at $159,000. And so if we look forward, what does this actually mean? It means that in a year from now, these green bars are actually going to be those white bars, and we'll start to see that. So really good to keep an eye on where we're trending and how things are going. And Mike with Insights is next.
Thanks, Ben. So a few weeks ago, I talked about a user research tool that we're piloting, Dovetail. One of the things that we were excited about with this tool was it allows you to tag relevant themes in interactions with our members. One of the things we were concerned about was, would we generate too many tags, making the information and data not nearly as useful as we'd hoped. On the left is a screenshot of just a third of the sample of tags that we generated in just a couple weeks, which again, not really making the process or information nearly as efficient and actionable as we'd like. So with that in mind, and with some feedback that we received, we actually used David's member problem rails, highlighted on the right, to basically merge the existing tags into these problem rails to basically make the process more efficient and more actionable to drive these insights to the team. That's all I have for right now.
Awesome. Yeah, for those that aren't super familiar with the Dovetail use case, it's this is basically taking transcripts of calls that we have and applying themes to them. So by clicking into any of those tags on the right there, we can see the specific feedback from that individual, but it gives us a nice way to aggregate and analyze what we're getting from all the calls that that our member insights team are taking. So really appreciate the team for continuing to push this forward. It's huge. Okay, Mercy.
Okay, I'm just going to do a recap of social from May. So Instagram, we hit 30,000 followers. We're about at 31,000 followers actually now. I think we're at 30.8 as of this morning. Our top post for May was this tweet graphic we have from Ilya Sterin, who tweeted about levels. This one got 280 likes. We reached over 11,000 accounts, and 13% of those accounts weren't actually following us, but some of them did start following us from that. There were over 283 actions taken. So that means people either liked, shared, saved this, or commented on it, which is really good activity for a simple graphic like that. We gained over 3,000 followers this month compared to April. And then Twitter, we hit 14,000 followers, up 3% since April as well. We had 127,000 impressions for the month of April, for the month of May, which is down from April, but we're still working on getting that back up. Our top tweet for May was this one about episode 4, the juice cart. People really seemed to be inspired by that one and really thought that was crazy because of the Josh hitting 200 after having a healthy juice. We had 7,000 impressions from that one, which is a total number of times our tweets were seen. And then the engagement on it was actually pretty good as well, which is 55 or 56, which is the number of times people tweeted at us about this specific tweet or retweeted it to their friends. Our top follower for May is Doge. They have 150,000 followers. That's it for social.
That's my favorite part of this update was Doge is our top follower on Twitter this month. Awesome. Thank you, Mercy. Okay, Tom.
All right. So building off of Ben's earlier slide, I wanted to zoom out and look at aggregate partner code redemptions on a monthly basis. So what this slide is showing is number of conversions per month for partner promo codes. So this doesn't include other codes like member referrals or wearable challenge or Salesforce pilot or JM Twitter. It's just partner promotions like Bulletproof or Ben Greenfield. So there and Sam Comp. And there are a few quick points I want to make here. So as mentioned earlier, a significant percentage of our total monthly sales is a result of these promotions. And to date, the timing of these promotions has happened like entirely organically or sort of randomly. So rather than kind of a planned cadence of hundreds of promotions in order to hit certain revenue targets, which is kind of where we're going to get to in some number of months from now, it sort of happened in an organic way. So looking at this graph left to right, Kevin Rose drove hundreds of sales, Broken Brain drove hundreds of sales, Mark Hyman's video and blog posts, Ben Greenfield's podcast, Bulletproof podcast, etc. And so partner-driven growth has been and probably will continue to be a result of these like isolated events. And so what that means is when we don't have these events, we're going to see dips. And so the big dip that you see here is a result of our team deciding that we wanted to pause and push back promotions between March and May. The reason March is still really high is because Bulletproof dropped at the end of February. So then March got a lot of sales. So we will likely see a couple of months upcoming that look more like January and February and may even exceed them as a result of Mark Hyman's podcast dropping and Drew Purewitz's second podcast dropping. But just noting that like until we really ramp up partner promotions when we're in growth mode, these one-off isolated events will probably continue to dictate whether we see whether our like monthly promos in the aggregate go up or down on a month-to-month basis. All right, next slide. Okay, so as some of you know, I spent a lot of time this week putting together a summary doc of the Salesforce corporate wellness pilot. Again, shout out to Braden for helping a ton with this. I definitely could not have turned this around in a few days without his help, as well as JM and others. And my goal here, I think, is mostly to say read the summary doc, which I'm going to send around later today, but wanted to do just a couple of quick slides. And our goal was really just to like, I think mostly dip our toe in the water of enterprise and like learn about that market and what running a pilot like this requires in terms of time and resources. You know, how will this group of non-early adopters respond to levels, and just, you know, what are potential outcomes if this were to go well and Salesforce says that they want to work with us on a long-term basis. Next slide. I'm just going to run through these really quickly, but like overall, you know, personally, I was pleasantly surprised with some of the results. You know, we don't have a ton of benchmarks to look at, but here are a couple of high-level stats that you can read. You know, the top line one being 82% of survey respondents rated the experience either very good or good. Next slide. And then 80% roughly strongly agreed or agreed with these three statements, that they felt more equipped to make nutritional choices or better nutritional choices after using levels. That it was easier to stay accountable to healthy lifestyle choices when seeing real-time glucose data, and that levels help them understand the relationship between metabolic health and lifestyle choices. Next slide. And then lastly, you know, constructive feedback. Again, there's way more data in the summary report, but a lot of familiar themes in terms of like needing more help making sense of the data, wanting more coaching, feeling like they learned a lot early on, but then kind of dipped in engagement in months 2 and 3, as well as some normal issues like sensors failing people. That's it.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for that breakdown, Tom, and everyone who helped on it. Haney.
Yeah, so on the content side, the one article I really want to call attention to is the one on the right, which I just threw up last night. This is one of our member 5 questions, which we're doing quite a few of now, but this is a really awesome story of Natalie Lumpkin and how her putting on her CGM inspired her dad, who had uncontrolled diabetes, to actually put one on as well. Totally unexpected. I didn't know we were going to get that going into the interview, but it's a great member story. Other stuff happening in the content world right now. We're working a lot on, I have to say, putting systems in place. I sort of talk about, you know, spinning up machines and then finding ways for those machines to run. So that means things like talking to an outside agency about doing some more of the editing and content production, former magazine people that I know who are kind of can handle the kind of work that we do. I've been using our one of our fantastic fact checkers, a woman named Aparna, has been now doing all of the audio work for me. So she just completely runs this. She sees when new post goes up, she assigns them out to the voiceover artist, she posts them on the blog pages. And so that machine kind of runs on its own. And we're looking at some other things like that. So some research memos, maybe some of the deeper science stories, just trying to get some machines in place so that these systems can run, and then free up, you know, more of my time and even Casey's time to focus on kind of new initiatives. Like, for instance, the site redesigns. That's one of the things we've been working on, is pulling together a memo about why we want the site to look a little different and kind of what our priorities are there. So that's a project that's going to move ahead, hopefully, with reactive. Just want to call out on the Coke experiment article there, which has done really well, I think, at least qualitatively. We've gotten really good feedback. That was a great example of sort of a data-driven piece. And the other one that I want to mention was, we're about to post next week a piece on the 10 worst foods for metabolic health, which is based on some work that JM and Gabriel did, looking at the data to see what foods had sort of low zone scores or really high deltas or peaks. Last thing I'll just mention, Casey shared this last night. We did a guest post for Mind Body Green a couple of weeks ago about glucose in the menstrual cycle. pretty simple piece for us, really. It wasn't something deeply complex, but it was a good example of taking stuff we know, putting it into a really servicey kind of framework, and then using, a partner like MindBodyGreen to amplify it. And it got 5,000 likes on their Instagram account when they posted it, and we've had just really good reaction to it. So again, it's just a great evidence that the content can live not only in our little ecosystem, but as we expand it out into other partners, it can just really amplify the reach, which is ultimately our goal, is just more people learning more about this stuff. That's it for content.
Nice. Thank you, Haney. Press update.
Quick press update. So yeah, and also just one other thing on what Haney was saying, that Coke experiment post, getting amazing feedback on it. And like he said, this is going to be the first of many data-based posts where we're sharing learnings from the Levels data set. And I think the 10 worst metabolic foods that's coming up is going to be a huge one. I posted about the Levels Coke experiment on my personal Instagram last night, and it was the most engaged post I've ever had. 223 likes, 19 comments in about 10 hours, and 7 story reshares where people just shared it to their stories and wrote about it. So I think that's a huge signal that people love seeing actual data from real people. So I'm really excited about the future of more of this in our content. So yeah, so in terms of our press, we've had some really great stuff in the last couple of weeks and some huge opportunities in the pipeline. I think this GQ feature was one of the most beautiful visual articles that we've had so far. It's just stunning and really worth checking it out on newsstands. This concept of building and designing a better body and having a GPS towards your health is something we've been talking about, since the beginning, and it's great to see that really coming out more widely. Awesome quote in there that said Levels will make you feel like the Terminator, which we have got to love. Next slide. Yeah, so this is what Haney was just talking about with the MindBodyGreen article. They don't do this for a lot of their articles, but they created an original image and feed post that went out to their 1.2 million followers about the article. This got over 5,000 likes, as well as 53 very enthusiastic comments, many story reshares. Again, on my account, it was posted to my stories, and there were 170 people who clicked the swipe up link to actually go to the article. So that was about 14% of people who saw the article went. And yeah, huge engagement, 57 saves and 37 shares. So yeah, just content is such an amazing way to scale our impact. And also really a good highlight that women's health stuff just really, has a huge reach. My audience on my account is 86% female. And so I think this really spoke to them. And then we had a good feature in Parade magazine, which is about what to eat for athletics, really focusing on how low carb or even fasting with athletics can promote metabolic flexibility. So yeah, some great signals for women's health and performance in our press this week. And then some really cool stuff coming down the pipeline. Good Morning America is in the program. Their correspondent put on their sensor this week and is very excited. And then chatting with Kara Swisher from the New York Times again today. She is working actively on the column about Levels. So some good stuff.
Huge week. Thank you, Casey. All right. We are tracking a little behind time right now, but we're going to proceed through individual contributions. Justin's got a story for us at the end, which we are going to do. If people have to leave for other responsibilities, please feel free to do so. But I'll go ahead and kick this one off. This week, I got to spend almost the entire week with my good friend and actually a Levels investor, Jim Coutre. And it was really cool to hear actually some of his inside kind of perception of how Levels is growing, and specifically the benefit and impact of this meeting and how we distribute it into our network for people to feel like they have a finger on the pulse of Levels. So that was awesome, and in both a personal and professional way. How?
Yeah, I'm really excited about the podcast, our own podcast, and I really enjoy to listen. I will continue over the weekend, also continue with my reading on Metabolical. Thanks, Rob.
Love it. JM.
I'm really excited about expanding the Coke experiment to 100 unsuspecting members. And thank you to Lori and the rest of the folks helping get that off the ground. Have a great
It's gonna be a fun one. Lori.
Hi, I'm really excited about the changes in Retool. Jinlu, gosh, you and Jeremy, I mean, everybody in engineering, but it's like magic, honestly. It's just wonderful. Yeah, I'm excited about being part of the Coke Challenge too. I have a 9-foot table out on my patio and 100 boxes. And anyway, it's going to be kind of fun. So my husband and I have a date for the backyard with music and maybe a little bit of wine. So it should be fun.
That's awesome. Thanks, Lori. Haney.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the Coke experiment go wide too. I love the idea of starting to do this kind of stuff with our members and generate more data and more content. Personally, I'm excited. I just bought a new pair of trail shoes, which is sort of my entry back into hopefully a trail marathon or something else this winter.
Love it. Justin.
Professionally, I'm super stoked about all the design work and how much thought goes into it and how beautiful it looks, and just even changing things and putting them where they should be, and it's great. And yeah, personally, I've been reading Metabolical and it's been taking me on a journey, and I love it, and I'm going to continue that this weekend. I just keep picking it up and reading as much as I can.
So shout out Justin for a pretty big getting back on the log, as Mike would say, this past few weeks or months actually. Getting back into his fitness routine. It's been awesome to follow. I saw that thread on Twitter, so good work. Mercy.
Yep, I'm gonna follow up with the retool changes. Those are huge and save so much time. Thank you, Jinlu and Jeremy. And also the design stuff. That looks super exciting. I really like the me page. I think that's gonna be really cool and really popular with a lot of members. Personally, I am headed to New York for the weekend to see a couple friends with my boyfriend. So I'm excited for that.
Have fun. Mike.
Yeah, +1 everything that's been said, but also the Hyman podcast. I know it's a huge one for Casey personally, and it's obviously huge for our company. And then I'm excited to receive 8 boxes of Metabolical that we're going to distribute to our members. They're supposed to come later today.
Nice. Casey.
Yeah, +1, Mike. Meeting Mark Hyman was definitely a peak experience of my life. I definitely would not be here without Mark Hyman's influence and his book. So yeah, that was awesome. Levels wise, I'm so excited about all the things we're doing with community and sharing of data more broadly. I think it's going to be huge in creating the movement. I'm so excited about everything in that umbrella. Personally, this one's for Mike and Sam. I'm going to a Tiesto concert on Saturday night, and I'm so excited for some electronic music. And I love how many people at this company love electronic music as well.
I love that there are Tiesto concerts happening again. That's awesome. Marilo.
Yeah, our +1, the design changes, just looking everything coming together. It's looking great. It's looking like levels, and I love that. Personally, this next week should be the scheduling for the vaccination should begin for my age group here in Portugal. So looking forward to just getting that first shot.
Nice. Dom.
Yeah, we are collecting and compiling a lot of data for the level study. I'm excited about that. And that's my next call at 1 with the team. And I have family visiting this week, so it's great to have them connect with me down here finally.
Nice. Rob.
So I'm glad you're all enjoying Metabolical. This is not related to levels, but this week, perhaps some of you saw in the Financial Times that an internal document at Nestle was leaked, that they know that 50% of the food that they produce is actually bad for your health. And they are now in, shall we say, major retreat mode, and we are leading the charge.
Wow. I didn't see that, but I did interestingly get a couple LinkedIn requests from people at Nestle this week. So I wonder if that's somehow related.
No doubt.
No doubt. Gabriel.
Yeah, so for level stuff, super excited about the new charts that Justin and Alan have been working on. They're looking really, really great. Personally, it's going to be like 85 degrees in Chicago this weekend. So I'm excited about that.
Can't share your excitement. It's not my favorite weather when it's 55 or above humidity and 90 degrees. Alan.
Hey, yeah, I'm super excited about the charts going out. And also just, I think there's so much promise in the data-driven, stuff like the Coke experiment. So I'm excited to work with David to bring some of that into the app a little bit more prominently, starting that with challenges, but I think there's tons more we can do. And then personally, we're about to leave for a trip to New York. So in about 2 hours. So excited for that.
Very cool. I think John, I don't see him on the call. John, if you're on, jump in. Otherwise, he may still be traveling on his way back from New York. So Jesse.
Yeah, +1 saw the new designs in the app. Those look really good. And also all the content is awesome as always. I just noticed that my levels is backwards. So I've got some levels going on. I'll change that soon. And personally, I'm going to Atlanta this weekend. So I'm going to be doing the nomadic lifestyle for June, and I'm excited for that.
Very cool. Yeah, Jesse, for what it's worth, it looks backwards to me, or mine looks backwards to me, but in fact, it's actually mirrored for everyone else. So yours looks good.
Awesome, thanks.
Ben.
Super stoked on the Salesforce summary that Braden and Tom put together. When I saw that doc, I was like, holy smokes, there's just so much great info in there. And I think it's going to be a really strong document to put forward. Personally, it was 25 degrees last Thursday, and today is supposed to be 100. And so that is a nice delta between 2 weeks, or between a week.
Insane. Tom.
I'll say the highlight of my week definitely wasn't the Salesforce summary doc. So I can't agree with you there, Ben. I'm going to go with Casey hanging out with Mark Hyman and Drew in LA as my highlight. I just thought that was so cool. And I know how much it meant to her. And I just think no one deserves to be in that kind of echelon of society with the influential scientific thought leaders as much as Casey does. So very excited about that. And then personally, I'll go with the fact that I've resumed exercising for the first time in like 6 or 7 weeks after a couple of random unfortunate injuries. So coming after that 400-meter time.
Let's see it. Ms.
Yeah, on the personal side, a few firsts post-COVID. So first big cycling group ride this morning was like 130 people. It was kind of nuts to see. And then I have my first concert tonight, Dawes, down in Santa Cruz. So I'm very excited for that. I've been waiting a while. About 75% of the way through Metabolical, I think I've highlighted 74% of it. So very much enjoying that. I think I posted that in the book club Slack. And then quick plug for the fireside chat this evening. And then we have assemblage coming up in 2 to 3 weeks. So looking forward to that.
Awesome. Stacy.
For levels, I'm just excited about the Coke experiment findings, like the quantifying what a walk does for us is amazing. And then personally, we're in Newport this weekend working with a hotel and a fashion brand, which is really fun. And we're going to a polo match tomorrow. So it seems like
activities.
More excited about Italy.
Love it. All right. Great work, everybody. We're right on time. Another killer week. Sam joined us late here. I'm tempted to ask him what he's excited about here. And actually, I'm going to. Sam, you're on the hook. What are you excited about?
Yeah, I think the thing that I'm most excited about this week is the quality of the documentation that I'm seeing from people on the team. I know it's a weird thing to be excited about, but like the document from Tom and Braden related to Salesforce, Haney's proposal for the blog, like Ben wrote some great content, JM wrote some great content. It's like every time I look at what things we're working on, I'm very excited about just the quality of written documentation that we have. It's really, really very positive.
There you go. That's the moral of the story this week, folks. Great documentation. It scales and it's fun to read. All right, everybody, have a nice weekend and we will see you next week.